Hey guys, it's Rory from UK Doctor and Fire again, bringing you another episode on basically how to pass MRCP. So I hope revision's going well, and today's topic is just how difficult are the MRCP exams? Well, the answer to that question really depends on who you ask, but if you're asking me, then I just wanted to bring your attention to the old days of MRCP when negative marking existed. And basically, what happened was nowadays, if we get a question wrong, we simply get awarded a zero. But back in the old days of negative marking, when candidates answered a question incorrectly, they would have actually lost marks. So that's quite scary, isn't it? So thankfully, negative marking no longer exists in MRCP, but as you can see from this table, pass rates for MRCP Part I, Part II, and also PACES still remains quite low. And basically this table shows from 2014 to 2016 the pass rates between UK trainees against what we call other trainees, and it's mainly pass rates at first attempt averaged over all three diets that year. Now MRCP UK state that candidates who didn't declare their training details are generally reported as other trainees, but it's presumably fair to assume that this group largely consists of doctors who've either trained outside the UK or are currently not within a formal training programme. Now, I just wanted to talk about the couple of reasons why other trainees tend to perform less well than their UK counterparts. Firstly, as this is a British exam, you would expect a larger emphasis on clinical conditions specific to UK clinical practice. This means alcoholic liver disease rather than malaria in the west of Scotland, or fatty liver disease. But having said that, Part 1 still contains many weird and wonderful conditions I've still not encountered in real life. Another reason for the lower pass rate amongst other trainees is that English might not be your native language. Certain words or phrases that UK graduates take for granted might not be so similar for international graduates. After all, it makes sense that if you don't understand the question, you won't be able to answer it. Now, this language barrier becomes even more pronounced in the final clinical exam, PACES, where candidates are expected to take detailed clinical histories, explain investigations and results, break bad news, in addition to presenting entire cases to examiners under immense pressure. The other topic I'd like to touch upon basically is scaled scores. When referring to exams in general, scores can either be expressed as raw or scaled scores. For example, a raw score of 70 out of 100 can also be expressed as 70%. However, if you want to compare the difficulty of this exam compared to its predecessor from last year, then the raw score isn't very useful. Let's imagine that we established that compared to this year's exam, last year's exam was less challenging. So how do we go about it? Well, we introduce a scale from 0 to 300, for example. If a mark of 72 out of 100 last year is deemed equivalent to 70 out of 100 this year by the experts, then we assign the same scaled score, for example 220 out of 300, to both marks. This is essentially what happens in the MRCP UK exams. Instead of a percentage score, candidates are awarded an overall scaled score that ranges from 0 to 999. The current pass score for Part 1 is 528, and the pass score for Part 2 is 425. Now, if we look back towards the table from earlier, it's interesting because Part 2 pass rates have always been historically higher than Part 1. Now, this could be a result of the lower pass mark required that we just discussed, but could also reflect a concept called survivorship bias, because only candidates who have passed Part 1 are eligible to pass or attempt Part 2. So in conclusion, hopefully I've answered how difficult MRCP is. Basically, at the end of the day, MRCP is a very difficult exam, but hopefully this video has shown you that it's very possible, and remember that anything worth having will always be difficult. So with a pass rate of 50%, for example, only 1 in 2 of you will be able to pass on your first attempt, but the person who does pass and the person who has done the most work will appreciate it all the much more. And remember that no matter how impressive they may be, all the registrars and consultants you currently work with or admire were in your shoes at some point during their careers. We were also apprehensive, and uncertainty followed us constantly like a dark cloud above our heads, and in my case it still does. Numerous consultants told me that failing multiple times prior to success wasn't all that unusual, and it certainly isn't a reliable indicator of clinical ability. Part of the battle is having confidence in your own abilities and not comparing yourself to other people. Imposter syndrome is obviously very common amongst us as a cohort, and I'm quite sure all doctors experience this at some point in their lives. After all, you've all passed medical school, which is a great achievement in itself, so all the best. If you like this video and would like to see more videos on MRCP, please subscribe to this channel, comment, and also like, just to give me a bit more motivation to continue making these videos. And just before I go, I'd also like to bring your attention to a couple of links in the video description box below. These links will take you to my two MRCP books, which have received very good reviews and have helped countless of MRCP candidates pass MRCP. I'd also like to bring your attention to my website, which is full of free MRCP advice, and if you decide to subscribe to the website, then you'll receive free monthly newsletters which are not available to the general public. Okay, until next time, good luck with your revision, and I hope to speak to you very soon.